Hello, How To Bob here, and I made this video to show you how I repaired my QEP 60010 wet saw. You can see that when I turn the saw on, it kind of tries to start, but if I spin the blade, it'll actually start and run just fine. So I think it's time to replace the capacitors, and I'm going to start out by turning the saw off and unplugging the unit. Let the capacitors sit for a while. And I'm going to remove all the screws along the front panel here. All these screws will be removed. So I'll go ahead and remove all these. And once I get all the screws out, the panel will slide forward. It's like a tray. And then I can remove the reset button cover and the on-off switch cover. And just set those to the side. And then I want to remove the reset button itself and the on-off switch. So I'll loosen those up, take the nut off. This one's a little tougher to get into because it's got the switch guard. And I'll pull the switch guard off along with the on-off plate, and the same with the reset button. There's a little tab on here that tells that it's a reset button. Once those are off, I can pull the tray out a little bit further and push the button and the switch in. And you can see that there are two capacitors in there, and they have two little holders holding them in place. So I'll just slide my capacitors out. And then I can remove the tray. So now we've got two capacitors. The blue one is your startup capacitor. I'm kind of thinking that one's the one that's bad. And then there is the run capacitor. So I'm going to pull the capacitors out here, and you can see they got wire nuts on them. And I'm going to undo the wire nuts. And I'm going to actually cut this wire here. The new capacitors have longer wire, so I should have no problem making up the difference in length here. So I'll get this capacitor unwound here, and that's my startup capacitor. Notice it's got a couple little caps on there. I'm going to take those off, and I'll reuse those on the new capacitor. You might be able to see the part number here, but I did list the part number at the end of the video, so you'll be able to tell what parts that I ordered. I went right to the manufacturer and got the parts from them. So I'm going to put my caps back on the end and tape them in place. These just help to hold it. This capacitor is a little bit smaller than the run capacitor, so it kind of helps it hold it into the brackets. And once I get that done, I can pull out my run capacitor, and you can see it's connected to the same lead as the startup capacitor, so I want to remove that one leg, and then I can start installing my new capacitors. I got my start capacitor and my run capacitor, so that's my start capacitor on there. And then I want to put my run capacitor, goes to the same lead, wind all the wires together, and I can put my wire nut on. It'll look something like that. Get it a little tighter. Here we go. I've got that one all hooked up. Now for the second lead on the run capacitor, it's right here. And I did not remove all the wires at once. That way I can kind of keep track of what's what and where things go. A little easier that way. Another trick is to take a picture of it before everything's taken apart and reference that picture. Okay, now I have the wire that I cut, so I have to strip that back. Strip it back about 3/4 of an inch. Just like that. And then I can take my capacitor wire and mate it up with that, twist it together, and put a wire nut on my wires. You can see it right there. It's kind of hard to see a lot of these, so I'm kind of backing off a little bit to tighten down the wire nut. Get that as tight as I can. And I'm going to put some electric tape over the wire nuts. Then I'll go through and put electric tape on all the wire nuts that I wired up already. Okay, so I've got all my wires back together, taped up and everything. Next, I got to get my cover plate and put the capacitors in their holders. Just trying to line things up and get them ready so I can set my tray in the slide here. Okay, once I get the capacitors in their holders, I want to line up the reset button and the on-off switch. And I can slowly push the cover tray back as I line up the reset button and the on-off switch until they line up all the way. And I'll pull on those as I push back on the tray and slide it back in. I'll insert my gasket, line it up, and then I can push the tray all the way back in and make sure my gasket's lined up. Once I get that pushed in all the way, I'm going to put my reset button tag on, then I'll put the nut on and tighten it up with the needle nose pliers. And then I'll put my rubber cover over the reset button, and I'll move on to the on-off switch, and I want to make sure that the on is facing up, and I'll put my switch cover on, and then my plate over top of that, my on-off plate, and then I put the nut on next and tighten that down. Okay, once I get my switch nut tightened up, I can put the rubber cover over the switch and get that tightened up. Now you can see there's a little wire hanging out the bottom, so my slide won't go all the way back, so I need to tuck that wire up into the box that it forms, and then it'll slide all the way back. Got everything tightened up. I can put all the screws in. And then we're going to plug it in and try it out. And that's how you repair a QEP 60010 wet saw. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe. I'm How To Bob. Thanks for watching.